Cliff there speaking to me earlier. That was at the press conference hosted by Tulip Sadiq MP. Well, joining me now from Westminster to discuss all of the above is Conservative MP Colonel Bob Stewart. Welcome to the programme. First of all, before we get into Ukraine, I do want to start on the question of Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and what I asked Richard Ratcliffe earlier today, which is this moral hazard, this idea that if Britain is seen to pay a regime cash in order to release individuals, is that a really worrying precedent to set?
Yes, it is. Of course, it's a worrying precedent set, and Richard totally understands that. The fact of the matter is we did actually owe this amount of money to Iran from prior to the Iranian Revolution, and we should have paid that some time ago, but sanctions stopped it. And of course, although we paid it now, there is a connection. There's clearly a connection between the release of hostages and the payment of that money. But frankly, you could actually argue, as did Richard, that that was a debt that was separate to hostage taking. So, you know, it's on the one hand, it does actually connect to the hostages. On the other hand, you can legitimately argue that it was a debt that we should have paid a long time ago, but couldn't because of sanctions.
Of course, one person's debt is another person's demand. This was a payment that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard demanded, but was after a deal that was done before the Iranian Revolution with a previous regime. Arguably, this wasn't a deal that was done with the Ayatollah or anyone connected to him at all.
No, that's correct. And that is one of the arguments you could use. Look, it's messy. The whole matter is messy. And we've got to remember there are still British subjects, hostages in a way, in Iran, because we haven't got everyone out. But I have to say, I asked questions about this tank deal way back in 2016. And I asked, you know, if we owe this money to Iran, after all, what actually happened prior to the revolution, the Iranian government, the government of the Shah, ordered tanks, they paid for them, and we delivered very few of them. So we took the money, didn't give the tanks to Iran. So in a way, that is a legitimate debt because the next regime would say it was owed to Iran.